So when the outbreak swept across the city, you can bet I was prepared. Boarded up inside with my trusty PlayStation 2 and a copy of Outbreak File 2. No zombies, hunters, or even my mum were going to compromise my survival in this infected city. Developed to take advantage of online multiplayer, this is the first time you could play a Resident Evil game with another person, providing you were playing online. But with the server shut down a long time ago, is it still worth picking up an Outbreak game for its offline mode? I'm going to say, yeah, I really enjoyed playing this. At its core, this is probably my kind of Resident Evil game. I haven't spent that much time with RE2, the game that introduced Raccoon City. But in each Outbreak game, File 1 and 2, you get 5 scenarios all centered around the city at the time of the outbreak, visiting some new places and familiar locations from the series as you team up with a small group of survivors. So if there is only time to play one of these Outbreak games, I recommend File 2. There are some really cool bosses and some really imaginative scenarios, taking you through Raccoon City Police Department, onto the mean streets of Raccoon City during the infestation, and yeah, there's a zoo. I guess it was a great opportunity to get some promotional shots for the box art, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity to fight hyenas, lions, and even an elephant. And that's just one of the scenarios. There's some really great setups in Outbreak File 2, and depending on which of the 8 characters you pick from and what choices you make while playing, each scenario has different events, endings, and routes. And even though the scenarios themselves are only about an hour, hour and a half, once you know what you're doing, there is quite a bit of replay value here. So the Outbreak games were produced exclusively for the PlayStation 2 as spin-offs because Capcom had an exclusivity agreement with Nintendo to release the main Resident Evil games for the GameCube. It didn't last long, but we got a really unique glimpse at the streets of Raccoon City during the time of the outbreak. So all the characters just happened to be caught in the middle of the outbreak. You can already see that this game puts its foot down right at the very start. This is going to be a unique Resident Evil game, whether you want it to be or not. But no, Capcom pulled out of their long, convoluted storyline and instead gave each of these characters a backstory, their own cutscenes, abilities, perks, and even choosing certain characters changes how the stages play out. So the first Outbreak game is pretty good, but I decided to pick up File 2 instead. It pretty much acts as a standalone expansion. Same game engine, same characters. There are some small improvements though, and a more varied range of bosses and scenarios. So one thing I was a little bit nervous about when I started playing Outbreak was how the atmosphere was going to work. While there is a general focus on the multiplayer aspect with the teamwork, Outbreak has this really frantic feel, with an emphasis on survival. It's easy to think this is just going to be a spin-off of the main games, but in saying that, there was a lot of faith in all the Resident Evil games at the time. And obviously some really dedicated people behind this project. And despite the weak multiplayer and the annoying AI, I still thought the game looked fantastic and it was still functional. And I guess when I say functional, your AI partners sometimes do things really right, and other times they'll steal your supplies and disappear. But that's kind of the charm. Technically, it would have been great if you could work better with your AI partners, and there's times they might find key items, or grab you. But they are seriously unpredictable. In some ways, that nearly makes them feel human. In the end, you can request and trade items, but playing through, there were moments I was struggling. I assumed all my AI partners were dead because I ditched them in a stressful moment, just to have them show up together later in the stage with some much needed supplies. As far as the scenarios go, I really enjoy how they flesh out the backstory for all these different characters, and you get to see the events of Raccoon City unfold at the time of the outbreak, but it doesn't interfere with any of the main plot points from RE2. Once you've managed to survive a few of the scenarios here, or even die horribly, you'll start accumulating points. And honestly, I wasn't expecting much from the Outbreak games. I was just kind of happy that they worked offline, but we did get a massive range of content to unlock. Obviously, a lot of these are just images from the game, characters and enemy concepts, sound clips and cutscenes. The costumes were kind of interesting, there's plenty to check out. And then there was the boss rush mode, and man, that is such a cool idea. Bosses from both the first Outbreak as well as File 2 are available to fight through. This is such a cool feature, and for a game that really didn't make a big splash when it was dropped, I was really blown away to find that there was this much stuff locked away on the disc. Being able to blast away the bosses from the original game in their original environments was a lot of fun, and look, if I had more time, I'd have loved to check out the original Outbreak as well, but for anyone where the plague hasn't really settled in yet, there's some great scenarios available in the original game. There's no zombie elephants, but if you like the gameplay that you saw here, it's pretty much more of the exact same. There's a lot of strategy in these titles, and the teamwork element is a little bit ambitious, especially online, where people can be truly terrifying and they're all probably trying to actively work against you. Not like it's much of an option anymore, but there may be a way to find a server somewhere. I mean, it is the internet, but I just didn't really have the time now to look into getting that online mode working. So Capcom have been trying to make multiplayer work with their Resident Evil games for a really long time. Whether or not you feel like they've succeeded, the more I played Outbreak, the more I realized they really put a lot into these games. But yeah, games like this certainly feel like a product of their time. It's not a classic Resident Evil title that everyone remembers fondly. I had a lot of fun playing it, but without the online multiplayer, it certainly feels like a neutered game. So the Outbreak series was a really unique concept that introduced a lot of different things to the Resident Evil gameplay, in particular the online elements. But seeing where the series is going with Resident Evil 5 and 6, it might be worth checking out Outbreak for just some really good survival horror. It doesn't work for everybody, but fans of the series might get a real kick out of visiting Raccoon City again and seeing some familiar faces. Anyway dudes, thank you so much for watching. I had a real blast, but I've really got to get going. Alright, cheers, thanks, bye. Oh, my toe, you bastards!